Sylvia Verdell to be on stage.
Thank you. Perfect. Thank you so much. Welcome. The IBBY-iRead Outstanding Reading Promoter Award was established by IBBY and the Shenzhen iRead Foundation to encourage a commitment to the cause of reading promotion around the globe. Every 2 years, IBBY invites national sections to nominate outstanding individuals who are working to promote the expansion and development of children's reading. The jury then selects 2 winners from among all the nominations, looking for individuals who have demonstrated a commitment to exploration, innovation, and a sense of responsibility and dedication to cultivating a love of reading in children. I'd like to thank my fellow jury members for their dedication and insight. Some of them are here tonight, but probably not all. Constanza Mekis from Chile is not able to be with us. Doris Breitmoser from Germany. Is Doris here? There she is. Thank you, Doris. Elena Pasoli from Italy. There's Elena. Basarat Kazim from Pakistan is not able to be with us tonight, but yay, Basarat. And Sophie Hallam from the UK. Where's Sophie? There she is. We also had representatives from Shenzhen, and that would be Wen Li and Jinting Wang from China, who represented iRead. And of course, once again, thank you to Liz Page, the Basel office. We couldn't manage without you. This year we had 14 excellent nominees from 13 different countries, and each of them is doing amazing, inspiring work in promoting reading and providing books for children, in developing reading programs and serving families and communities, often in very challenging circumstances. Our first winner was nominated by 2 national sections, by IBBY Canada and by IBBY Iran, and that is Zohreh Ghaeni. Just in case you don't know already how wonderful she is, Zohreh is a children's literature expert, a lecturer, a researcher, and a major reading promoter. She's worked as a teacher in rural parts of Iran, studied librarianship and information science at Open University in Tehran, and is now the co-founder and director of the Institute for Research on the History of Children's Literature in Iran, which was founded now 20 years ago. It's a non-governmental and non-profit organization. In that capacity, she's directed and co-authored the publication of a 10-volume history of children's literature in Iran, a monumental achievement. But that's not all of Zohreh's accomplishments. She's also served as a jury member of the Hans Christian Andersen Award twice, and as the jury president for the Andersen Award twice. Her work is not only academic and scholarly, however. As part of the Institute, Zohreh designed and developed a reading program that has had huge success all over Iran and Afghanistan, called Read With Me. This project makes high-quality books accessible to children who normally don't have access to books at all, such as street children, working children, children living in remote and deprived areas, and those living in crisis due to unrest, war, natural disaster, or global pandemic. More recently, Read With Me has focused on reading aloud to create a joyful literary experience for children. In addition, the program's intent is to empower teachers, librarians, and volunteers in remote areas through training workshops and regular mentoring. Read With Me has already reached several 100,000 children in 23 provinces of Iran. It has established nearly 100 child-centered libraries, and about 10,000 teachers and librarians have been trained to promote quality children's books around the country. She has said, "I have no doubt with quality books, we can empower children to change their lives and their destinies." Thank you for inspiring us all, Zohreh. I'm also so pleased to welcome Jane Kurtz, a second winner of our IBBY-iRead Outstanding Reading Promoter Award. Jane grew up in Ethiopia, then returned to the United States to attend university, then teach writing, and start a career as an author of children's books. But her heart has always remained in Ethiopia. She has spent the last 25 years helping to develop indigenous authors and illustrators in Ethiopia and in multiple languages, while also establishing an infrastructure for publishing books and promoting literacy with training for teachers and librarians. Her work began in 1998 when she co-founded Ethiopia Reads with Johannes Gebergeorges, an Ethiopian political refugee who was living in San Francisco. Together, they developed a strategy for starting libraries to support literacy development. Johannes returned to Ethiopia with 15,000 books to launch their first library in Addis Ababa. Jane continued to partner with Ethiopia Reads, serving on the board for 10 years and traveling to Ethiopia in their efforts to plan over 80 libraries for children in all regions of Ethiopia. Most are school-based, but others are located in and serve a whole community. Each library receives furniture, a seed collection of titles, and training and networking for librarians. The combination of materials and staff development ensures that the libraries will be used in ways that support literacy development for children and for the entire community. Where there are no roads, Ethiopia Reads deploys a teacher on horseback to reach children who have never held a book, and they find themselves surrounded by children, parents, and elders listening to stories. In early 2016, Jane initiated a workshop in Ethiopia with artists, children, and adult volunteers, which resulted in a prototype for Ready, Set, Go books. These are colorful, easy to read, culturally appropriate, and published in both English and one local language. Jane then collaborated with Eleanor Angelides, who's here. Wave. There's Eleanor. Eleanor is part of Open Hearts Big Dreams, and together they expanded this initiative, and by 2020, they had 105 different Ready, Set, Go books. They've printed over 110,000 copies now in 7 different Ethiopian languages, and they have plans for printing another 150,000 in 3 new Ethiopian languages. Jane's work with literacy addresses the challenges of multiple official languages, a lack of books reflecting Ethiopian culture, history, and landscape, obstacles with translation and with publication and distribution, and the insufficient professional opportunities for librarians and educators. All of that. With her vision and her collaboration with others, she has planted the seeds of literacy all over Ethiopia. We're so happy to congratulate in person Jane Kurtz. I know you want to hear from them, but first we have greetings from the Shenzhen iRead Foundation from China, who sponsored this award. So let's cue the video.
The Shenzhen IBBY-iRead Foundation was founded in 2010 with the mission to share the joy of reading with every child and help raise lifelong readers. Surveys show that in China, 64.2% of urban children read little more than 10 books every year. More than 60% of rural children read less than 6 books every year. 89.9% of rural parents rarely read. They neither guide nor read with their children. We have found that high-quality children's reading is one of the most effective solutions to the problems of social and individual development that are caused by the differences in educational resources between cities and rural areas, as well as by the gap between high and low-income families. IBBY-iRead's work started by donating primary school libraries in rural areas, and we have built more than 300 libraries since then. Now, IBBY-iRead has developed various reading programs to promote children's reading and help improving reading environment through different approaches. The quality of reading materials is crucial for children's reading. Right from the start, IBBY-iRead has been recommending excellent children's books through the work of book list curation. We have published the IBBY-iRead Early Reading Book List and IBBY-iRead Primary School Library Book List, which together include 5,000 carefully selected books for children aged 0 to 12 years. The book lists are age-graded and categorized into different genres and topics. IBBY-iRead 100 Recommended Children's Books is our annual book list. It selects 100 best newly published books that year, as well as 10 books suitable for educators. Each book list is put together through a rigorous selection process by a jury panel. The jury members are top experts from relevant fields, such as children's literature, education, child psychology, and art. IBBY-iRead's book lists have been widely used, providing guidance for parents, teachers, reading promoters, and NGOs. In 2016, IBBY-iRead launched Reading Start, an early reading program for children aged from 0 to 6. This is the first early reading program on a mass scale, jointly launched by the government and a non-governmental foundation in China. Reading backpacks are distributed to families with 0 to 6-year-olds for free. Included in every backpack are one handbook for parents, 2 age-appropriate books for the child, and a set of family reading tools. To date, IBBY-iRead has given out more than 200,000 reading backpacks. IBBY-iRead partnered with the Harvard Graduate School of Education to assess the effectiveness of Reading Start. The research team found that children who participated in the program have significantly improved their vocabulary development. The parents also had a better understanding of how to read with their children. As part of Reading Start, IBBY-iRead designed a 14-month-long course to train early reading promoters. Many of the graduates work in communities to promote the awareness and practice of early reading through organizing reading activities for children and their caregivers. In order to serve more people more effectively, IBBY-iRead has developed a mini program on the social media platform WeChat, on which users can find thousands of quality children's books, play stories for children, and take lessons on how to read with children. With the aim of advocating parent-child reading, IBBY-iRead founded Parent-Child Reading Day. Every year on December 28th, a wide range of reading-related events are coordinated nationally, spreading the joy of reading and the importance of reading with children. An early reading summit is held biannually by IBBY-iRead. Scholars and experts from China and around the world are invited to give presentations. We hope this summit will serve as a platform that fosters communication and cooperation. As a foundation that both operates its own programs and makes grants, IBBY-iRead's program Reading for All supports NGOs that work on improving rural and migrant children's reading by providing grants for project operation and capacity building. So far, Reading for All has worked with over 60 projects, covering 18 provinces in China and reaching more than 230,000 children. Our grants are also given to basic and applied research on children's reading. Some very interesting and meaningful work has been produced using these research grants. For 12 years, IRead has tirelessly promoted children's reading because we believe in the power of reading.
We are so grateful for the support of the Shenzhen IRead Foundation. First, we're going to hear from Zohreh Ghaeni. Will you please come up and share your work with us? Thank you.
Good evening, dear friends and colleagues. I am extremely honored to be here to receive such an important award, the IBBY-iRead Outstanding Reading Promoter Award 2022. I am very proud of being one of the winners. The first time I heard the name of Shenzhen IRead Foundation was when I was an IBBY-EC member, and in the middle of one of our sessions in March 2018 in Bologna, the leaders of the IRead Foundation came to introduce the Outstanding Reading Promoter Award and asked for opinions. At first, I was a little confused because I believed that reading promotion is a teamwork and should not be given to one person. But on the other hand, to be honest, I became happy that finally this profession is acknowledged as a creative and innovative career. However, it cannot be denied that the work of reading promotion is a group work, and without energetic and dedicated colleagues, it would not be possible to achieve great success in this field. But any successful needs careful planning, creative thinking, and innovation. And I wish that this award can create the ground for the growth and expansion of creativity and innovation in the promoting reading, especially in deprived regions of the world for underprivileged children. So I am very grateful to IBBY and IRead Foundation for creating this award. I am also very grateful to the jury for their hard work and dedication. I would like to thank IBBY Iran and IBBY Canada, specifically Nushin Ansari, Patty McIntosh, and Patsy Aldana for their permanent, powerful support. I would like to thank my wonderful colleagues in the Read With Me team who cooperate with me in this project and believe in its goals, and the hundreds of Iranian and Afghan teachers, tutors, and librarians who have supported me and worked with me during all the projects I have been involved in. I am also grateful to all these friends for their support and giving me hope and encouragement during the years that I have met them. Hadi Mohammadi, Liz Page, Anastasia Arkhipova, Marit Tornkovist, Junko Yokoto, and my late friend Bill Till. Finally, I am grateful to all children around the world who instilled in me the love of children's literature and the promotion of reading in a sustainable way. Now, I would like to retell my personal story. I grew up in a middle-class family in Tehran. My mother was a teacher before her marriage, and my father was an educator and translator. I have 4 sisters and 1 brother, and I was the 5th child of the family. Although we were not a rich and prosperous family, I had a very calm and happy childhood. We did not have a lot of toys or dolls, but we played a lot in our fantasy world, my younger sister and I. My father loved books. He had a rather big library at home. I cannot imagine him without books. His passion was not limited to read books. He always encouraged us to read literature and poetry. And he bought us many storybooks and read to us every night. I remember he used to tell the stories of Little Man to me and my younger sister. I later found out that the series were the stories of his own childhood dreams. My father came from a poor family and experienced a very tough and difficult childhood. He came from his small city miles away of Tehran on foot to study law in university. But when he graduated, he could not serve as a lawyer. He always told me that it was not easy to judge, and he was not sure that he could always do justice and not take the wrong decision. That is why he became a teacher, to promote the values of tolerance and respect for others. For a while, he became the director of a boys' orphanage center. He spent all his time there. On Fridays, he took my younger sister and me to the orphanage. It was my first experience to encounter orphans, and I compared their situation to someone like me who had parents and a happy life. I never before met children without a home and a family. And I kept asking my father why. Maybe his responses were beyond the comprehension of a little girl, but they made me try to find the answers later. I observed my father, who spent his holidays there to teach the orphans some skills that would be useful for them in future, in addition to their lessons. He managed to establish a library in the orphanage. Although I could not read at that time because I had not yet gone to school, I read to them the books that my father had already read to us many times, and I could narrate them by heart. I felt how much fun it was for me and my sister and those little boys. I have always loved children and always loved reading books. In the last years of my high school, I was fascinated by social activities. It was when Samad Behrangi, a children's book writer who was a village teacher as well, became popular among young intellectuals because of his critical stories against injustice and oppression. Samad Behrangi was a social activist and critic, folklorist, and a story writer from Azerbaijan province of Iran. Like many other young people, I was influenced and very impressed by his books, which portrayed the lives of the disadvantaged children of deprived villages and cities. I particularly loved the little black fish story. The little black fish lived with her mother in a small pond on the side of a mountain. Their home was behind a black moss-covered rock. The little fish longed to see the moonlight in their home just once. For several days, the little fish had been deep in thought and had talked very little. The little black fish wanted to go to see where the stream ends and what's happening in other places. The little black fish said, "I've just gotten tired of these swims. I don't want to continue this boring stuff. I might face death any minute. It's not important if I die because this is going to happen anyway. I know my purpose. My purpose is how will my life or death impact the lives of others?" I was in such thoughts and beliefs when I entered the university, an American university in Shiraz, where the students lived in modern and beautiful dormitories on the slopes of mountains by the big grass fields. But I was not happy about my life there. I felt frustrated and dissatisfied. That situation made me constantly compare the lives of university students with the lives of poor people in Islam. These slums were not very far from our dormitories. People there had no drinking water, and their children did not go to school. Again, I asked myself, why? Why should these people live in these ruined places? And what should I do? What is my social responsibility? I left the university when I was 19 and moved to a small village in north of Iran to become a teacher of the children who lived in poverty near the forests. In that village, I started to read the stories to children who had never had any books in their lives. At that time, I was living in a strange paradox. On the one hand, I wanted to be with the children and read books to them and be their hard-working and dedicated teacher. And on the other hand, I wanted to be a hero who could save all the disadvantaged children, the children who were kept in the orphanages, the children who lived in slums around big cities, the children who lived in remote and disadvantaged villages, I wondered what it would be like to be just a teacher in a deprived area. I intended to do something much bigger and more important for underprivileged children. But I loved my work and the children of that village until one morning when I was getting ready to go to school, I was arrested in my place, which was a small room in a country house. They took me to the road to get in the car, and the school was right on the road. When they put me in the back seat of the car, my eyes caught the worried eyes of my children who came up from the short wall of the school to see me once more, and maybe for the last time. I never forget their anxious looks. I was not allowed to say goodbye to those children, even wave to them. But I said to myself, I wish I had not left them. I never told anybody what I wished. I wanted to be a hero, not an ordinary teacher, even at the cost of going to jail, in prison. I saw mothers who met their small children every weekend. Their children were kept in an orphanage, and they came to visit their parents only on weekends. During the weeks, I planned rich stories I could share with them. There were no books, no pictures. Then I knitted gloves and socks for them, on which I would embroider images of various animals with colored threads. I told the stories of those animals to the children, and they returned to the orphanage with those pictorial gloves and socks and could live in a beautiful fantasy world of that story for a week. Most of my youth passed in this mental turmoil. And after a decade, when I was behind bars for the second time, I had the opportunity to think thoroughly and review my whole life and evaluate myself for what I was really looking for. When I was in the cell, all I could do was entertain myself with handiwork. And because I loved painting, I tried to paint my thoughts by colored painkiller tablets on cardboard boxes of washing powder, or by sewing them with the threads of my cellmates' clothes. And once, when I was sewing the Alfred Gabali fisherman, I imagined myself rowing in a turbulent ocean like his painting, and felt that there was no hope in that situation. But it wasn't true. I found out how fishermen struggle to get fish in that stormy weather. I tried not to lose my hope, to find it among those tall, breaking waves and place it like a slippery fish in the net. I made my decision. I did not want to be that hero anymore. I decided to put my feet on the ground and find my true motivations for living. I was hoping to make the lives of underprivileged children better and more beautiful, even if it was just one step. When I was released, I was looking for a different way to follow my dreams. I decided to return to the love I had when I was a village teacher. Getting to know IBBY-iRead led me to research and study the history of childhood culture, and it was a turning point in my life. When I was a co-researcher and writer in the Institute for Research on the History of Children's Literature in Iran, although I had a lot of information about my society and could get different experience in my life, I did not realize the dynamic connection between the past, the present, and the future before starting research on the history. When I got into this study, I tried to discover the truth through the dust of history, tracing the work of the Iranian devoted educators, writers, and children's rights activists, and their amazing progress in improving the lives of children in the very difficult situation at that time taught me that we should remain optimistic during challenging times. It was out of mind after half a century, still saw children who lived in slums, not having much food to eat and not going to school. It was dreadful and outrageous that the abandoned children in nurseries sometimes died from systematic neglect. It was terrible to see girls who had to drop out of school and get married as children due to family poverty and lack of education. It was a shame when we encountered children who had fled Afghanistan alone or with one of their relatives and were looking for recycled materials in the garbage to sell and support themselves and their families who were left behind in Afghanistan. I was deeply dissatisfied. I had a sense of anger and frustration. But I remembered the Sierra Leonean politician, Evan Akisoyer, saying that we all have the ability to turn the frustration into a positive feeling by allowing our dissatisfaction to give birth to a change. This was absolutely true. The dissatisfaction opened us the space for me to design a plan for a deep change, a plan or program to implement it around the country by the Read With Me community. But you know, we are all small communities in our societies. We cannot help all children in crisis, refugee children, children who are not seen, children who don't have a voice. No, we cannot. But How about making effective and successful models in giving a voice to children who have no voice, or to those who are not seen? I thought that like disaster relief organization constantly facing various crises in human societies, we should have models for disaster management, the effective and proper models for problems. We need flexible and sustainable models for the children in crisis in different situations. The only solution is making dynamic models. We plan models to rescue children from difficulties and darkness, to hold the babies and toddlers in our arms, to talk to them about hope in the moments when they are left in loneliness and fear, to feel the warmth of our existence, to hear our voice, to look into our eyes, to know that we are there beside them and behind them. We designed an effective model for educating children in marginal parts of Zahedan, Sistan, and Baluchistan who do not own ID cards and have no access to education. We developed the model Reading with Family to promote reading among all members of the low-income families who cannot afford books and do not have access to quality books, in order to transform their homes into high literacy environments and to make reading books and learning literacy a part of families' daily routine. We developed a model of maternal functional literacy for empowering oppressed, neglected, and illiterate mothers, Iranian and Afghan, in remote areas, to foster their children's learning and reading. We designed and implemented various creative models for different problems and dropped them like red balls in the darkness. Like this picture, which was gifted to me by Marit Tonkovist a few years ago. Now we are determined to spread more and more red balls in the darkness, to invite more interested and dedicated people to reading promotion, not only in my homeland, but also in all other places where children's rights activists want to build a better world for their children. We invite more people to unite behind the power of dissatisfaction, to give birth to a change and to make Earth safe and peaceful for our children. Thank you.
Wow, what a journey, what a life, what a commitment. Thank you, Zohreh. That was so meaningful. And now we're going to hear from Jane Kurtz. Welcome, Jane.
Thank you all for being here this evening. I know it's been a long day and many of you had very long journeys, so I'm appreciative that you're honoring us with your presence. I am also very honored to have heard about Zohreh's work. Amazing. I'm honored by the US BBY committee that put my nomination together. I know Kathy Short is here. I know that it can be very thankless working on committees. So I appreciate that, and also the IBBY jury. I am so honored to have been chosen to be one of the IRead promotion winners, and so grateful that the IRead Foundation has made this possible. When I was listening to that wonderful introduction of the work, it sounded pretty fancy. And I am not actually a very fancy person. I'm a writer, I'm an artist, so I came to this work not as an academic, even though I am a teacher, and I came to this work not as someone who had a lot of backing. Really, it's been a very scrappy journey, but I hope it will inspire you a little bit as you hear about the journey. Many of you in this room are educators, and many of you in this room are artists, and you know that artists collaborate. On the screen, you can see one of my students from the Vermont College of Fine Arts MFA in Children's Literature, and she was one of the first people to hear about my idea, and she and I together set each other a challenge that we would try to write a story about rolling bread. So this book was one of my first ideas that was the project that now I'm telling you about. I've also had collaborators of illustrators. You can see some of them in these pictures. I've also had collaborators of translators, amazing translators that are translating the books into various Ethiopian languages. Educators have been the collaborators because I wouldn't know anything about producing books for children in Ethiopia if Ethiopian educators weren't reading and giving us feedback. Sorry, I have to go back for a moment. Oh, can't go back. That was my granddaughter in that other picture, but I rushed past it. So my grandkids have been my collaborators, and also Eleanor and Layla have been amazing collaborators for this project. This is absolutely not my project. It's a project of a whole community of people who care about getting books to children in Ethiopia. Some days I feel like one of the spiders. If spiders work together, they can tie up a lion. Some days I feel like these two guys who are building a school in Ethiopia, stretched out a little too far. Some days I feel like St. Yared, who never gave up. Some days I feel like the mouse, who was too brave. And some days I feel like this book donkey. But it's been quite a project. As you heard, it started with our parents. And my parents were people who raised me to believe that you could make a difference. My mom and dad worked in Ethiopia for 23 years. But that journey started with my dad being in England and then France in World War II. And at the end of the war, he said that he flew planefuls of people, all skin and bones and sad eyes. And he wanted to make a difference with his life. At the end of the war, the Emperor Haile Selassie came back and discovered that the Italians had killed a generation of educated Ethiopians. And he invited people to come and try to help rebuild the country. And my parents were people that decided to go. Oh, there we go. So there I am in England on my way to Ethiopia, and I am on a leash. When I'm doing school visits, I show children that I went to Africa on a leash. My brother, sorry, maybe you can help me go back to me on a leash. Yeah, there we go. My brother was only 3 months old when later on he went to Ethiopia. Sorry, having a little problem with the clicker. There you go. And as kids, we didn't have any grand ideas the way our parents did. We just knew about the sounds of Ethiopia, the sights of Ethiopia, the smells and tastes of Ethiopia. Here's my brother eating wat and injera. The wat is very spicy, so he would take a bite and it made him cry, but he liked the taste, so he would take another bite and cry even more. It was an amazing place to grow up, a place that I absolutely loved, and it's where I learned to read. My brother took his family back to Ethiopia when he became an adult, and he was a teacher in Ethiopia. But I was living my memories through writing children's books. That's when I became a children's book author, and it was through being a children's book author that I managed to go back to Ethiopia to do author visits. So after having been gone for 20 years, I was able to go back to Ethiopia. From that experience, I helped start an organization called Ethiopia Reads, which, as you heard, was planting libraries, mostly in schools in Ethiopia, but sometimes with horses or donkeys out in the countryside where there aren't any schools yet. We were shipping books in English, hundreds of thousands of books in English. And it was actually my brother who was looking at some children reading in one of the libraries and pointing out that even though we had roomfuls of books in English, the kids were clumped around a small shelf of local language books. And that's when I first got the dream that what I really wanted to do was to find some way to create books in children's languages. So first, my brother and I took teachers to Ethiopia, and we had a very simple project. My brother, who, by the way, is right over there, I'm sorry that I'm using him as the butt of my jokes, but my brother is the one that was reading this story, simple story made up by teachers in English and Amharic. And then that led to this idea that became Ready, Set, Go books. But there was another step, and that is that two of my children went to Ethiopia to volunteer when they were in college, and I ended up with Ethiopian daughter-in-law and Ethiopian American grandchildren. So my own grandchildren are people that I want to help understand Ethiopia. They're mostly growing up in the United States. And there's my grandson with one of the books that he helped write for Ready, Set, Go books. Now, you heard about the project that started this. These are the artists. It sounded very grand, but it was these artists, some of them American, some of them Ethiopian, who brainstormed with me about whether we could do this. And one of the artists took some of the children's art from a workshop and scanned it, and that became the first book. Some of our books are from Proverbs. Some of our books are from Ethiopian history. Some of our books are from contemporary life. Some of our books are nonfiction. We have about 130 books right now, and we've been able to explore lots and lots of different topics because these are really the first colorful books that most children in Ethiopia will hold in their hands. So any idea that we have for a good book is a great idea. And you know, books are the way that the world shares its ideas. So all of you in your own countries and communities, and for me with Ethiopia and America, it's the way to share ideas. Our books are traveling all over the world because there are Ethiopian families all over the world. But of course, the most amazing thing is when we are able to get those books back to the continent of Africa, which involves a lot of fundraising. This is the road up to where I grew up in rural Ethiopia, and these are some of the mothers from that part of Ethiopia. And my sister has started a project called Read to Mom. You know, the studies show that if you educate a woman, you educate all of her descendants. And so you can see in these next pictures, children in Maji, where I learned how to read in rural Ethiopia, now reading books in their own language. What an amazing way to come around full circle and give something back to the beautiful place where I was a child. Women in Ethiopia are strong. They have to be strong in many different ways. So we're trying to show the lives of women. We're increasingly trying to show the lives of children who are invisible because of different abilities. And you can see that for kids in Ethiopia, getting to see their own lives in books is an amazing privilege. We've been approached by lots of communities of Ethiopians in the US to try different languages. So that's one of the main ways that we're expanding. There are 80 languages in Ethiopia, and we're even expanding into a few languages outside of Ethiopia. And one of the most meaningful projects of the COVID times is that Ethiopia Reads got a grant from World Bank to give books away in some displaced person camps. And the staff went out and delivered the books and did a simple training for the parents. And a photographer went with the staff, and he said that he had documented giving away food and giving away medicine, but he said, seeing the books meant more to me, because when children smile, parents have hope. You see here a woman who works now for Microsoft, and she said that she grew up in a refugee camp, and her mother had her read stories or letters from their family over and over and over, and she realized it was her mother teaching her how to read. So no matter where children find themselves, if we can give them pictures, if we can give them words to read, we are giving them hope. A lot of our early illustrators were children, but now we're doing more and more work with Ethiopian illustrators. There you can see Leila with one of the Ethiopian illustrators at a workshop that we did in Ethiopia. And my dream for the future is that we'll have more and more and more Ethiopian artists helping us with this project. In the meantime, Leila and Eleanor lugged a lot of books here, and we put some books out on the table that you're welcome to take with you. And my hope is that we've planted a little dream, because I think what can be done in Ethiopia can be done lots of places, not by fancy projects, but by a few people who are determined to make a difference. And I'm so honored to be in this room full of other people that I know are making a difference. Thank you.
That was so beautiful, wasn't it? I love that we've learned both these women's personal journeys and how they've turned that into reading promotion extraordinaire. It's fantastic. Oh, love it. Mingju. So we want to do the official presentation. Please come forward, President of IBBY, Mingju Zhang. If you want to present. photos. There we go. We got some photographers. Maybe we'll do it with we have both. Turn around. There we go. All right, you can do this. Pictures, all right, because there's part two. Yes, it is. I know. Right. So this, we're going to hold it up.
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is
yeah.
James.
James.
Okay, so you have to hold both at the same time. Oh gosh. Thank you. All right.
All this.
This is the. Oh, it's so heavy.
Yeah.
It's a 14 years old. There we go. Also from the IBBY Foundation. Photos. Congratulations again to our two very deserving winners. Thank you so much. All right. Oh, so thank you, the one who said this. All right, we have one more announcement. Watch your step.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, this is the IBBY-iRead Outstanding Reading Promoter Award 2022. Thank you so much, everyone. Please give a round of applause again for our Miss Sylvia Bardell. Thank you. All right, so we will, after this, we'll have our dinner ready. Wow, wow, wow. Okay, yeah, I can see smiley faces over there. All right, but before that, I'll have some like housekeeping announcements. Okay, for tomorrow. All our videos, our presentations, award presentations, and then even our opening ceremonies can be rewatched again on our Facebook and also YouTube. Yeah, so if you wanted to see your beautiful smiles over there, you can rewatch in our Facebook. MBBY and also admin MBBY in YouTube. Yeah, and maybe tomorrow we can give the name of the YouTube and also Facebook for you guys to rewatch. Yeah, and second one is there are some Malaysia handicraft available downstairs and it's available for purchase if you wanted to take a look and also purchase some Malaysia handicraft. Yeah, and the third one for shuttle bus tonight to Zenith. It's 9:30 p.m. in front of this building, right? Shuttle bus to Zenith 9:30 p.m. later, and yeah, after you take your dinner. No worry, Miss Lee. Okay, and tomorrow morning it's 7:30 a.m. first bus from Zenith. Yeah, all right. So I think that's about it. And tomorrow morning we will have all our plenary sessions and amazing session. Okay. So I really hope to see you guys and you can enjoy your dinner. Thank you so much, everyone.